Hi, my name is Robin Kurz, and this is Cooking for the Jewish Soul. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I'm sorry that I'm not here in person, but you guys are the first to see my very first effort at a YouTube video, so I hope that you enjoy it. The reason why I'm very excited about teaching this year is because I have 3 children who are all graduates of Hebrew High, and they all really loved the experience. And so it's important to me to give back to the school and to also be a part of the community. And teaching is something that I love to do, and cooking is something that I love to do even more. So this year, what we're going to do is learn traditional Jewish cooking for the Jewish soul, and for all of the Jewish holidays and life cycle events that we traditionally celebrate throughout the year. And the first week, we're going to take a look at traditional foods for Shabbat. The second week, we will take a look at cooking for the high holidays, for Rosh Hashanah, for Break the Fast on Yom Kippur Day, and for Sukkot. And the week after that, we will take a look at Shavuos and all of the delicious milk-dipped things that we can eat and enjoy. We'll also take a look at Passover cooking. And then we'll take a look at one of my favorite movies of all time, Deli Man. And we'll learn all about deli food and what the deli movement meant to our grandparents who first came to this country, and what the deli movement means to us today. And our last class will celebrate that, and we will not only make deli food, but we'll also have a nice deli dinner. So I hope you'll take this journey with me and bring your recipes that are near and dear to you and your family's hearts, and we'll all learn from each other. It'll be a hands-on class, so every week I will hope that each one of you will take a whisk and help me along and cook, and we will at the end of every class get to eat what we've made. And what I wanted to make this week, just as a little example of what we might do in class, is a recipe that I learned from my grandmother, my Bubba Esther Grossman. She was a fabulous baker. She was from Poland, and she brought most of the recipes that she learned from her mother and her grandmother to our home to teach my mother and me. And when I was a little girl, she would make these Mandelbread every single Friday for Shabbos dinner, for dessert. She would make them for every holiday and for in-between snacks. And she would also, once she moved to Miami Beach, bake these once a week and send us a care package. And one of the nice things about this recipe, and something that's kind of Jewish about it, is that it's something that you could make and something that would travel. So in the old days, when people needed to have something they could make ahead for Shabbos and keep for enjoyment for the whole week, this recipe fit the bill. So we're going to bake Mandelbread. And Mandelbread literally means almond bread. And it's almost like a biscotti in the sense that it's a cookie that's baked twice. And the other thing that I like about it is my grandmother made it with almonds, but when I made it for my children, I added chocolate chips. And in modern days now, you can see it made with pistachio nuts, white chocolate, dried cranberries, dried apricots. Your imagination can run wild, and you can make this recipe your own. So when we make this recipe tonight, I'm going to be using chocolate chips. But we'll take all the recipes that we make in class. I'll have copies of them for you, and you can take them home, and with your moms and dads, you can make these recipes to your family's liking. So this recipe is really easy. We don't need any fancy equipment, just a bowl, a whisk, and a spatula. And what we're going to do is take our wet ingredients first. That would be a half a cup of oil and 2 eggs, and a teaspoon each of vanilla and almond flavoring, but you could use mint, you could use orange, you could use lemon, whatever you like. Going to whisk these together quickly, and then we're going to add our dry ingredients. And our dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour and a cup of sugar and a teaspoon of baking powder and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Just going to whisk it all together. And at the very end, we're going to add our chocolate chips. And that's all there is to it. And my grandmother never actually measured anything. She didn't even have cup measures when I was a little girl. she just used a teacup, and that was her measurement. And she'd use her hands a lot of the times instead of whisks and spatulas, and everything always came out perfectly every single time. So I hope that you all have had a chance to learn from your moms, your dads, your grandparents, aunts and uncles. That's the best way that these recipes have been passed down from generation to generation. And it's nice to keep these traditions going, because even though we've all pretty well assimilated into our American lives, the one way that we can keep our customs and traditions together and to learn about being Jewish is with food, and the foods that we use to celebrate days of the week, holidays, and any kind of special life cycle event. So basically, that's your dough. And then we're going to take it and form it into logs. So I'm just gonna fold it out onto the counter, make sure it's all together, and then I'm going to separate into 3 logs, if you will. And we're going to put this on a baking sheet, and we're going to bake it once for 25 minutes, and then we're going to bake it again after we've cut it into the slices that you know as Mandelbread. There you go. One more. Depending on whether you like them really long and skinny or short and squat, you can make these logs bigger, taller, shorter, longer. I just have the cookie sheet lined with a piece of parchment paper, and in these will go into the oven. So I'll see you back in 25 minutes, and we'll do the next step.